Yes, it's live. Should be live. Is it live, Jeff? Yeah. Can I hide the scoreboard? It's not going to let me take away the scoreboard
Good evening. How is everybody? Yeah, I'm so Bradley. So tonight we have an opportunity to do something. It's not something that we would ever have planned for tonight, but it is going to be a great opportunity for us. So I'd ask our friends from Sydney if you'll indulge us about 10 minutes. We'll tell you a little bit about what's going on tonight. And for most of our folks here, we are here tonight to honor one of our very, very dear friends. Paul Thomas was the bench coach here for the last several years. And many of you know Paul. Paul's the son of Ab and Janice. The Thomases are here tonight. They came to honor us with their presence tonight. Dr. Regal's going to tell a story in a few minutes about how Paul got to be the bench coach, how he got to be the assistant coach. How many of you have a, pray for me, I need to slow down. How many of you have a Paul Thomas story? If you knew Paul, you have a Paul Thomas story. Tonight we're going to hear Dr. Ray will give one of his, and we'll have a couple of other ones tonight to go along with that. We have a couple of other of the young men who, how many of you young men here played for Coach Thomas? You sat on the bench with him. If you'll raise your hand, there's several in the room. That's great. What a great influence. For those of you who are visiting with us, Paul was a young man. He had Down syndrome. And he gave his life. He loved basketball. He loved people. And more than that, he loved Jesus Christ. And he gave his life to the ministry that his dad started many years ago, Master Ministries, Master Clubs, if you at your churches, or in your Christian school, or your church, I'm sorry. So tonight, we want to have, and Paul passed away very untimely this spring. So tonight we want to honor him and have a time of memory, and we're going to give something in his honor. You have a hat on you. Today in our high school chapel, I had to explain to our high school students what it meant to tip your hat to somebody or to take hats off to someone. So most of you know that young Mr. Isaiah Gabbard showed the whole student body that this was tipping a hat to your somebody. And hats off meant I have great respect for you and I honor you. So tonight at different times, student body and the team are going to have hats off for Paul. And we're going to ask you to do this tonight also. The tradition normally is when you get ready, we do the tip off tonight and we stand until the first person from our team scores. We're going to ask you after the tip off to hold your hat off. And fellas, don't take a long time to score, okay? And maybe they'll comply. We're going to do a couple other things. In a moment, I'm going to ask Dr. Brian Regal to come up. And again, he was the administrator and the head basketball coach when Paul became a part of the basketball program here. And he's going to talk a few minutes about Paul and, again, tell a couple of his stories. Mine, I can't share because it's very much too personal. But Brian's got a couple I believe he can share with you. And at that time, shortly after that, we're going to see something come down that's going to be an honor for Paul. And then we're going to have our warm-ups. And when those guys come back out from warm-ups, we'll do our national anthem. Hunter Guyton, former our graduate here, is going to come and he's going to pray for us. And we'll do a couple other things on him. So Dr. Regal, if you'll come, and he'll speak, and then I'll wrap that up, and we'll have Taylor do his thing, and we'll get on with it. Come on, Ray.
Thank you, Brother Goodson. Paul and I have a unique relationship, and it began many years ago when the Thomas family moved to Milford. I had just graduated in 1990, and Bobby and Jimmy were in 91, and I was 93. graduates of Milford Christian Academy. So I was around them a little bit, but I really didn't know Paul until we became neighbors. And Paul would ride his bike in our neighborhood. Our son Taylor would go over, they would play video games, and Mrs. Thomas would have our girls over at Christmas time and bake cookies and do special things. So our family was bonded to the Thomas family for many years. In 2012, 2013, we just came off winning runner-up state championships, and we had a good team coming back, and Paul came and was sitting right about at our old bleachers. You remember our old bleachers? Yeah, those were wicked. They were sitting right about here, and Paul came, and Paul always brought a clipboard. And Paul was sitting over here with Brother Thomas, and I came over and I saw him. And of course, our relationship, I came over and shook his hand, gave him a hug, and he always called me Coach. He said, "Hey, Coach." And I said, "Sometime you gotta come over and join me." And I got about 10 feet. And Paul was joining me. And from that day forward, till my last game I coached, he was beside me. And beside me, I mean, Tom Alford was really my assistant coach. But Tom, one game, I'll tell you this story. Tom said, "I need to sit by Coach Rabel." And Paul said, "I'm the assistant coach." And Tom was like, "Paul, I need to help him. Here's some things I need to help. I'm sitting by Coach." So Tom went to the other end of the bench. But Paul was my friend. I brought Paul on trying to be a blessing to him. What I failed to realize is the blessing he was to me. And the boys he was around. He loved them. Paul always made grand entrances to the locker room. And depending on the girls' game, if it went long, which they do, Paul would come into the back door, we'd be dressed, and he would come in with his hat on, with his black NCAA shirt, ready. And he would always show us, no matter if we were praying, I was trying to teach them something or instruct something, he came in with a bottle of water and snacks. And always told us they were fat-free. That was Paul. He tried to give me cookies. He pulled them out of his pocket. I'll be honest, I never ate them. I would just tuck them aside. And as the years passed, the impact that he had on our young men was greater than I could ever imagine. And it just challenged me to love everybody around you. Because Paul loved everybody. We always had, and I learned this from my coach, Coach Ennis, we always had devotions, we always prayed, we always took prayer requests. And in that little room right there, some of your names were mentioned by men that played here. Paul many times would pray for Sarah. But Paul taught us a lot. And the biggest thing he taught me was just to love people. Love people. He loved them all. When Paul passed away, it was about a week before I found out he was in the hospital, and we were at Bethesda North for something, and my last conversation with him was about a week before he passed. I went into the room to see him. Brother Thomas was there. As soon as I walked in, he said, "Hey, Coach." And Paul was coughing and struggling to some degree. He was on some oxygen. But we took time and talked, and he asked how some of the players were, and our family. And the last thing that we did, and I'll close with this, was Brother Thomas said, "Would you pray with us?" So my last few moments with Paul here on this earth was a time of prayer. And Ab looked at me and said, "You're in his prayer book, and he prays for me about every day." That's what I wanted our boys to be around. And I learned it a little bit too late. So I love that young man. Walked out of the room and told him, "I'll see you later." And I will see him later.
Amen.
I had a few minutes with this basketball team earlier. Basically what I told them to do was show the love for each other, show the love for Jesus, and love people. And I think they're going to give it a try. I'm going to ask Taylor if you'll, I don't think you'll need the step stool there. You step in a chair, please don't break. I'm not going to ask for a countdown. I just asked Taylor when he got a chance to get it off that frame, if you can, and just give that a,
Well,
cut it. You cut it. It's okay. We'll get it down shortly. Okay? They're going to warm up. We'll get that down. Y'all, thanks for coming out.
yeah, I was going to so they can see it. Go ahead. Here, since I'm over here, I'll do this side.
Oh, they're going to get a ladder, man.
Okay, then I'm going to stay on that side so people see it can get it.
It's not going to be
It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Okay.
go that side of the team.
You're fine.
We pulled it
It's
down 10
fine.
times. We practiced it. We drilled it. We made sure we had the right amount of time.